Hi, I'm Richard Dennis, Chief Economist at the Australia Institute. Have you ever noticed that governments never seem to have enough money to spend on health or education or protecting the environment, but when it comes to cutting taxes, there's never enough money to go around. I mean, the government's about to introduce the so-called Stage 3 tax cuts that are going to cost more than $10 billion a year. So how come? How come governments have always got enough money for tax cuts, but they've never got enough money to spend on the things that people say they want? Well, it's no accident. In fact, I call it the RightWing Ratchet. It's a very clear strategy and they've been working on it for decades. Conservative governments in Australia and around the world, whenever there's any form of crisis or bad times, they say, oh, we're going to have to cut spending, we're going to have to spend less on the things you want. And then whenever things pick up, they say, oh, I might cut taxes for high income earners. So again, this is not an accident, it's a strategy. When times are good, cut taxes for your friends. When times are bad, cut spending on your enemies. And by cutting the taxes when times are good, it actually means that in the future, budget deficits will be bigger. Now that might sound scary, but guess what? The budget deficits are actually then the excuse for cutting the spending on things like health and education. This is not an accident. This is a very clear plan. It's been in place for decades. It's not just in Australia. Look at Donald Trump. When Donald Trump was in power, he spent hundreds of billions of dollars on tax cuts for high income earners. Again, not an accident. Always delivering for their friends and always looking for an opportunity to cut spending on things they don't like. So here we are in Australia, one of the richest countries in the world, living at one of the richest points in world history. We've just gone through an incredible economic crisis thanks to COVID, and we saw that governments can spend enormous amounts of money whenever they want on anything they want. Well, guess what? That applies to health, it applies to education, it applies to tackling climate change, and it applies to tax cuts. But the point of being in power, the point of being in government is you get to decide which things you want to spend money on and which things you don't. But rather than admit that, rather than say, I'm cutting taxes for high income earners because I like them and I don't want to spend more on disabilities because I don't want to, rather than admit that simple truth, the right-wing ratchet creates this economic fiction that we have to cut taxes for high income earners because that's good for the economy, and we have to cut spending on health and education because that's good for the economy. It's not. Cutting taxes is good for high income earners. Cutting spending on health and education is bad for a lot of people that rely on those services. These are choices we get to make. Other countries make different choices. We could make different choices here in Australia. We just have to see what's going on. So keep an eye out for the right-wing ratchet.
The bottom 20% get nothing. They're really unfair tax cuts.
People want to see much stronger action from the government when it comes to climate change.
It's no coincidence that we have a wages crisis in Australia.
Transitioning to net zero emissions, it doesn't seem like there's much room for gas.